Did you know Halloween edition? According to the Pentagon, there are more than 400 UAP sightings reported each year.
Welcome to the Lore of the South.
Follow the show on social media to keep up with what's going on and to see pics that go along with each episode. Search for Lore of the South on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Lore of the South with me, Kelly Cruz. How the heck are y'all doing? How'd y'all enjoy the monkey's paw? I'm still alive, you guys. And guess who was at the door?
It was me.
It was producer Mike. And he is going to join us for our special edition Halloween episode, episode 75, Hillbillies versus Aliens.
And I am so excited to be here because I've been waiting on this all month.
Yeah, and y'all know I don't normally talk about little gray guys. I don't like aliens. They scare the mess out of me. But these stories are a little bit more on the, well, at least this first one is on the more on the humorous side, we're going to say. And it comes from way back in August 21st of 1955, the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter.
Did you say 1955?
Yeah, 1955. And let's see, it was a small little farmhouse, only 2 rooms, and inside were 5 adults and 7 children.
Holy moly.
So this was a house full.
Was that pretty common, you think, back in 1955?
Some of them were visiting.
Oh, okay.
2 of the adults were carnies, and they were back home visiting Mama.
Oh, okay.
And there were some other family members that were visiting from Pennsylvania, I want to say.
Yeah.
So I guess they were having kind of a little reunion thing going on because it was all of Ma Glennie Langford's kids had come home.
Gotcha.
So at about 7 p.m. or so, Lucky, who was one of the carnies, gets sent out to the well in the yard to pump some water to bring back in the house before dark.
Right.
And that's when he spotted something streaking through the sky. And he claims that it landed in the backyard.
Well, you know, where did this happen?
Kentucky. Did I not say Kentucky? I'm sorry.
You may have. I got to imagine that in 1955 that there wasn't a lot of light pollution. And it would have been very obvious of stuff moving around.
You're right. Right. Yeah, I mean, like, we're just after World War II. We'll get into some of why they think that this flap may have occurred of sightings of UFOs or UAPs as they're called now.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. I have like a list of what else was going on in the world. So Lucky goes out in the yard to collect water. He sees something streaking through the sky. It looked like a comet or maybe a meteor. Mm-hmm. But then a shiny craft landed in the Langford's backyard.
It landed.
It landed.
This is their description of what happened.
They claimed a shiny craft landed in the backyard.
Gotcha.
So he goes back in the house and he's telling the family what he saw out there.
Right.
Nobody believes him.
No, why would they?
I mean, come on, Lucky, the carny. What are we up to, my guy?
Yeah, right.
So
everybody's going to kind of blame him for the wacky weed, you know.
Well, I mean, this was the 50s. That
he was a
carny.
Come on.
I don't know. I mean, should we even call him carnies? He was a carnival attraction operator.
There you go.
So he went back in. Nobody believed him. And that was until it was full dark. And little men began to attack their little farmhouse.
Attack?
Yes.
Like pitchforks?
They were under attack. They were like peeking through windows. They were like trying to come through the door. And it was in August in the South. So all these people's windows were open.
We're wide open, yeah.
So they claim that they're under attack. And this is how the men described their little attackers. The little men were described as having huge eyes and hands out of proportion to their small bodies. The visitors were wearing what looked to be metal plate. And this was taken from the original news story reported by the Kentucky New Era. So 2 of the men in the house took up arms against the men. One had a shotgun and the other had a .22 pistol.
Okay.
Against a bunch of little spacemen. And y'all have to include pictures. There's like diagrams of the little guys that like a sketch artist drew up. It's pretty funny. Okay, so now all of this comes from the original report. By and by, one of the little men pressed its face against a window, and the shotgun was fired through the window. The face disappeared. The men decided to go outside and see if the visitor had been hit. Taylor was in the front. When he emerged from the front door, a huge hand reached down from low on the roof above the door and grabbed him by his hair. He pulled away, and the 2 men went on out of the house.
Like running, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they're going out there to see if they hit anything. I mean, they just shot a shotgun through a window at one of these things' faces. So I guess they're looking for bodies. One of the strange little men was in a nearby tree, another on top of the house. A blast from Sutton's shotgun knocked another one of the men, meaning the little men, the little goblin guys, down, but he did not appear hurt. He disappeared into the darkness.
So you just said goblin men.
Okay, that's one of the things that they're called, or the Hopkinsville Goblins.
Okay.
They're called the Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter.
Right.
It's got lots of names, but Goblin is like the one that stuck.
Yeah.
But it's little green men.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we have a general idea of what aliens look like in our head, when really it could be anything.
And
really.
I think that comes from like between E.T. and then our classic 90s green, or this sticker of he's a gray alien, but he's a green guy with the big black eyes.
Yeah.
That sticker was everywhere in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, that's what we picture. We always think of the little gray guys. So, on with the news report. Taylor reportedly opened fire on the members of the invading party, also with little effect. The battle went on for some time. The occupants of the house saw their chance during a lull, and they jumped into their cars and drove to Hopkinsville for help.
Jeez, like, just how big did they think these things were? So what was the ratio?
I think they said they were about 2 feet tall.
2 feet
so, I mean,
tall?
they were little guys.
Yeah. So I'm picturing in my head, like, clown car, 2 feet tall guys running at this house and climbing all over it.
Yeah. Like monkey-like.
Yeah, almost like cartoony, though, like they're covering the whole house.
That's exactly what I picture, is like kind of like gremlin-looking dudes.
Yeah.
All over this little farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky.
Yeah. So I looked up some stuff about this, but I didn't look at the story, but I looked up some stuff on Wikipedia about it, and one of the things that came up in this is the movie Critters was based on this story.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of horror and sci-fi that are based on this.
And that was one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Was it Critters? I flipping hated those little guys with their round teeth. Yeah. No. The way they rolled everywhere? No, thank you. No, thank you to the Critters. So then the family reported to have used 4 boxes of shells, and all of the bullets pinged off of the little men. Like, they did not affect the little guys whatsoever.
So there's not one body. Well, obviously there's not, because that would have been a big deal. That would have been your solid proof that those guys were there.
Alien autopsy would have looked a lot different from what it did in the 90s.
Yeah.
Or those little guys they had that were in Mexico not too long ago. We'll have to talk about those on the Patreon sometime. Let's see. About 25 law enforcement officers responded. Some reports say that even MPs from the nearby Fort Campbell showed up. There were no sign of the little men, but there were lots of signs of at least a one-sided gunfight.
Right. Of course. Right. I mean, how many shells did you say they used? 4 boxes?
It was 4 boxes. I don't know how many shells come in a box, but I mean, we could have Googled that, I guess. But I'm thinking that would probably be, at least 100 rounds, right? At least.
If it was 25 a box, probably.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking in my head.
Maybe.
So probably at least 100 rounds that they fired at these invaders.
Critters.
Okay, so this is back to the original report. The only excitement that happened during the period when the officers were there came when an MP happened to step on a cat's tail while walking in the darkness near the house.
Ooh, and one of those, that could have been one of the aliens. Maybe he transformed into a cat.
Okay. The cat let out a squall. And for a few seconds, there was much activity and scurrying around on the part of those present.
Yeah.
2 officers who returned to the Kelly area early this morning reported hearing that the little men had reappeared around the Sutton home about 3:30 in the morning.
Because they weren't having any of it.
They were done. Yeah, these little people were like, let us in your cabin. We heard there's carnies in there. I mean, carnival apparatus operators.
Right.
Police also reported that there was no drink involved. I mean, because that's one of the first things you think of is like, okay, we got Kentucky hillbillies.
Right.
They got to have some moonshine, but nope. Mama was a teetotaler. She did not believe in alcohol. There was no alcohol in her house, so they weren't drunk.
They were carnies, though. May have been sneaking a little something on the side.
I mean, could you imagine having that many people in a 2-room house and not be? I am not encouraging anyone to bad behaviors.
That's probably why they were shooting up the place. Everybody's all frustrated.
That's a lot of people. Okay, so the report continues on. The only outspoken comment came from Frank Dudas, a city police desk sergeant, who was not on duty last night at the time of the invasion and had not visited the scene so far. He said, I think the whole story is entirely possible. Sergeant Dudas was one of the 2 city policemen who reported seeing 3 flying saucers early one morning last summer. He said, I know I saw them. If I saw them, then the Kelly story certainly could be true.
Oh, sure.
Years go on. I mean, like, they never find anything, but this draws attention from all over. So people are coming out to the Langford's homestead, and we're looking around and stuff. So
it's a media storm at that point. Yeah.
Then the Langfords claimed that the little guys came back.
Oh, no.
And they left town. But then it goes on. This was later written up. It was written up in Project Blue Book.
Okay.
You aware of what Project Blue Book is?
That's actually something I got a couple of notes on. Yeah.
So Project Blue Book, for listeners, if y'all aren't aware, is like a secret government program that I think it encompassed everything from like Roswell up to some sightings further, because Roswell was what, in the 40s?
Yeah, it was a study of UFO and the threat to national security.
Okay.
It collected thousands of reports and concluded that there was not enough evidence to yield any scientific discoveries.
Okay. So the Blue Book was released. They deemed that the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter was ruled a hoax. But here's my question. Why the heck were MPs showing up to this thing in the first place? It was like half an hour to the base from the Langford's farmhouse.
But it probably was about that far from anything if they were way out, you know.
Kelly was the closest, but Hopkinsville was bigger, and it was like they were right outside of Kelly, but they were 15 minutes from Hopkinsville, and Fort Campbell was 15 minutes further than that. So it was about 30 minutes out. Yeah. So according to the timeline, the MPs must have been hanging out at the sheriff's office or whatever.
Or they were called in, or somebody who felt that there was some credible reason to call the military and probably could have called them.
So, yeah, I mean, 25 law enforcement officers came out for this.
So, real quick.
Yep.
25 law enforcement officers show up to a UFO sighting that nobody's really believing in, right? There had to be some kind of credible evidence, or those officers were seriously bored.
So what they were scared that was happening was because, also remember, we're, hillbillies.
Yeah.
And moonshine could have been involved. So what if some of the neighbors had just been out walking around,
Oh, I gotcha.
and then all of a sudden, they thought they saw or heard something out there, and they just opened fire
Just
on some
started
people
blasting.
walking around.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure that there wasn't actually people being shot at that had 100 rounds
they were
fired at them.
Yosemite salmon it.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's one of so many law enforcement showed up because they didn't want it to be like a shootout between families or something
Right.
like that.
Oh, I didn't think about that
Yeah.
either. About just family feuds going on.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it probably would have
Exactly.
taken that many people to kind of separate or to,
Yeah, well, and if they found it was two families going at each other, they would probably have to split up and some of the cops go and take care of the other side of the shootout or whatever,
Yeah.
So, but that was the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter. Did you have some notes for this one before I go to our next story? Because I have one more story for us.
Oh, no. I mean, I just had like some little stuff. When I looked it up, I stayed away from the story, like I said.
Yeah.
But I looked up a couple of things about Hopkinsville and that kind of thing. And it was just that about the Blue Book Project. Go ahead and go through this story, and I can bring those
And we
up.
could just do a summary
I can do
after.
things
That sounds good.
afterwards, yeah.
Okay, so this one happened just a little bit earlier than the Kelly Hopkinsville case. And this one may be more commonly known to people, and it's the Flatwoods Monster.
The Flatwoods Monster.
Flatwoods Monster.
In the same area?
This one's in West Virginia. It took place on September 12th, 1952.
Oh, okay.
It starts off with Eddie and Freddie May, ages 12 and 13. They were playing in their schoolyard when they saw a red streak across the sky. It appeared to land or crash on a nearby farm. The boys had heard that meteors were worth a pretty penny, so they rounded up a group to go help them investigate. It was witnessed by 6 boys ages 10 to 17 and their mother and the Mays boys' dog. So the dog runs ahead of the group through the woods to go to the crash site. Well, not too long, the dog streaks back past all of them with his tail tucked between his legs.
Right.
The party continues on. They finally arrive at the crash site. And this is a description of what they saw from Gary Barker, a UFO writer, using the original interview tapes.
Right.
The figure was approximately 10 feet tall, with a round, blood-red face, a large pointed hood-like shape around the face, eye-like shapes which emitted a greenish-orange light, and a dark black or green body. May describe the figure as having a small claw-like hands and clothing like folds, and a head that resembled the ace of spades. According to the story, when the figure made a hissing sound and it glided towards the group, one of the boys screamed and dropped his flashlight, causing the whole group to run away.
That is very demon-like,
Oh, it's scary. I mean, like, it sound like a... I'll post pictures. I always do. Y'all know that. But the pictures that they show that goes along with this guy, I don't even know how to describe it other than what they just said.
It's very paranormal in general, right? It's very demon-like shape. It's very ghostly with the glowing eyes. That's kind of wild, yeah.
Yeah, and they say it looked like it was wearing clothing like fabric, and so it was folded like fabric.
Yeah.
So then the group said they smelled a pungent mist, and some later said they were nauseated. The local sheriff and a deputy had been investigating reports of a crashed aircraft in the area, and they searched the site of the reported monster, but saw and heard and smelled nothing. According to Barker's account, the next day, Lee Stewart Jr. of the Braxton Democrat claimed to have found skid marks in the field and an odd gummy deposit, which is where they say that the UFO or saucer had landed or crash landed.
So there was evidence of where it landed or crashed, but
That's what's claimed.
But no evidence of the actual crashed vehicle.
Right.
So that's something that happens in all of these stories. There's a crashed vehicle, right? Or a landed vehicle, and there's no evidence of said vehicle. Other than maybe something on the ground.
Yeah, they said they found like a little gooey gummy deposit.
Yeah. who knows what that was.
Yeah, I mean, like, that could have been left by the dog.
Right, exactly, right. That's why he was tucking his legs and running. It was...
Freddie and Eddie could have left that behind. They were scared to death. They pooped themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone who witnessed the encounter became ill. Everyone, all of them. And the dog actually died.
Jesus.
They assumed that it was from the noxious gases that were emanating from the creature.
The stink, right?
Yeah, whatever the mist was.
Yeah,
the pungent mist got
skunk ape
them.
stuff too. Like there you go.
Skunk ape got a Halloween costume.
It brings in all of the paranormal things all into one.
So, and isn't it also weird? Okay, like that one was in August. This one was in September. Granted, this one took place before the other one.
Yeah. Well, in the wintertime, nobody's going to go out. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to go searching out in the cold.
I don't know. I mean, those meteorites were worth a lot of money. So, I mean, those kids, they were onto something when they saw the streak in the crash. Because, they were... I think that we'd have to go back and listen to the episode about... what's her name? Dorothy? The lady who had the
the
asteroid...
From Alabama.
From
the
Alabama.
lady who got hit.
Yeah, that crashed through her house.
Yeah.
And that thing ended up selling for a pretty penny, and then...
Yeah, I don't remember how much that was either.
Yeah, it was wild. Well, the black man that found a piece of it that had broken off, he ended up making enough money to buy himself a truck and pay for a farm. So, I mean, probably not as much, but I can't remember her name. I remembered it, y'all. Ann Hodges. Her name was Ann Hodges. I knew it'd come back to me. Okay, so it sold for $500 in that.
So it sold for $500
and that was in 1956.
Okay.
So all of this stuff is happening in the 50s.
Right.
And the Flatwoods Monster and the Kelly Hopkinsville event, like you were saying, there's been a lot of movies and stuff based on these two different things. One thing that you may know the Flatwoods Monster from is from Fallout 76.
Huh. No, I haven't played enough of Fallout 76. But I'm sure he's in there.
He makes, because part of it, because it's in the Northeast. So they go through West Virginia, I assume.
It is. It's based in West Virginia.
Okay, so the Flatwoods Monster makes an appearance in there. He's one of the cryptids.
Gotcha. Because they have the Mothman as a big thing in that.
Okay,
I do know.
And that was also...
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's kind of neat. And then we have a lot of stuff has been based on them, but they think one of the reasons that this flap occurred, if you want to, I don't know if it's a flap, if it's over the course of a decade, but in 49, let's see if I put it in here. I think it was 49, the Russians successfully tested a nuke.
Oh, okay.
So there was a big red scare going on right now.
Right.
So these kids could have seen the Flatwoods Monster and been like thinking, like, oh, it could have even been like a Russian wearing some kind of like radioactive protective gear kind of thing. There was an invasion going on. It's probably what they thought. And then also around this time, like War of the Worlds comes out, and this is kind of when like the B movies
started grasping onto that.
Started really taking off, was in the late 50s after these sort of encounters happened.
It was 1949 that the Soviets detonated the bomb.
Good job, Kelly. You remembered.
The bomb was known as RDS-1.
Okay. So yeah, we can blame part of the Red Scare for some of this.
That probably has a lot to do with like things becoming toxic, you know, and
well, I mean,
the idea behind all that.
Yeah, this is like when we were starting to ramp up into the Cold War. Was in the 50s when we were like, that's when like Korea. I think we were in Korea by then, and that whole thing that lasted until the wall came down and. What was that, 89? I did remember 89. I should stop doubting myself, guys. But yeah, those are our two little hillbilly versus aliens stories. And they were more kind of funny than scary, I think. But we can lighten it up this Halloween a little bit after the monkey's paw.
Yeah, that was a little creepy.
I think the monkey's paw is pretty creepy, especially for, it's an old story, so.
It was one of my favorite to edit, too. Like, I think that this one, it turned out really good. It's got
I hope y'all do. I hope y'all liked it. That's what really, but I had fun doing it, too.
It's got little cheesy moments in it, but but that's part of the fun.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us about the movies and stuff, or if you had any questions.
Well, no, one of the things that I found was that Steven Spielberg used it to do one of his first movies, and one of his first movies was called Night Skies. And I went and looked up the trailer for that thing, and it almost reflects this perfectly.
Which one?
The Hillbillies in...
the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter.
Hopkinsville, yeah. But the funny thing is while I was watching that, I found scenes that were copied in later movies, like Men in Black, like to the T.
What are those Easter eggs? It's not copies, it's Easter eggs.
Yeah,
it's
or callbacks.
An homage, yeah.
But I thought that was a scene from Men in Black when it come up.
When it first came out,
yeah. Which was kind of neat. But like you said, Spielberg spends his time putting little things like that, callbacks to his other movies all over the place.
In all of his movies, yeah. It's like when I mentioned Eric Nedry from Jurassic Park, and they dressed him like Chunk from Goonies.
Actually, if you go back and look at that, they dressed him like all the characters. He wore the yellow jacket, just like the kid. Who was the leader? The kid?
Mikey.
Yeah, they dressed him in the same yellow rain jacket that he was in. They dressed him in the same outfit that Corey Feldman's character played.
Okay.
I saw a video of this not too long ago.
He was Mouth. I don't think he had another name besides Mouth.
Yeah, but it was pretty interesting that how he called back to almost all the Goonies characters.
Yeah, it was pretty. He's great. But yeah, several of Spielberg's first movies were aliens or UFOs. Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T. So yeah, he was into the alien stuff.
Yeah, that was a lot more than
wonder if he's a believer.
Oh, I'm sure. And aliens is something I can kind of get behind. I have a hard time with some of the ghost stuff. I'm very skeptical with that. I'm very skeptical with a lot of the cryptid stuff. Only because I feel like we know enough about our planet that this stuff should be common. But aliens I can get behind because the universe is too vast for us to know.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more into it. A lot of stuff I don't know that I believe in it, but I would love for it to be true, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, aliens, those are one of the things that scare me. So yes, I think that they are real. And I don't ever want to be tooken, y'all. And y'all, also, I just thought about this. I hope no one is offended by the term hillbillies, because that's like a badge of honor. Do not be offended by that term. Mm-hmm. What else? Do we have anything else to add in this? Are we ready to close it?
Not really.
Are y'all having a good Halloween? I hope y'all enjoyed these 2 episodes. We had fun doing them. A little bit different for us than normal.
Yeah.
This is kind of how we do our Patreon, y'all.
Right.
If you're interested in getting of checking that out, even if you just do it for 1 month, it's $3. It's just producer Mike and I talking about a subject, cutting up, and having a good time.
And just kind of loose. It's not. We don't really have it scripted. We try to do one's original. And then the other's a recap of whatever we did this last time.
Every month you get 2, or how many ever episodes come out on y'all the regular feed, we do a recap for the Patreon, and then we do 1 original story. So it's usually 3 extras a month.
Yeah.
So if y'all like it, check it out. Sometimes it's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. You can also check out our TikTok account. We got a YouTube channel.
Yeah, all the social medias, and I post pictures, y'all. So y'all get to see these crazy looking guys. But I think we're going to call this our Halloween episode. A 2-parter, our first 2-parter, even though we gave it its own episode number this time. But I'm not going to do the oldest buildings. We're going to hold off on those since these episodes I'm calling these specials.
Yeah. This one's kind of an extra anyway.
Yeah, you're getting a bonus Halloween episode this month. But I guess with that, we'll talk to y'all later on the next Lore of the South.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Stay tuned for a preview of our latest Patreon episode.
And I think that's why people didn't like her. And she made work. Even though she was put through all these things, stripped naked in front of the whole damn town, and the whole colony. And
not once
but twice. The last time
4 times.
Oh, that's right. She was tried 4 times. But this last time, when they were doing the ducking, was out in public. I mean, like before it was like with a group of women. This time it was like they stripped her naked on the shores of the river.
That was something else that I found funny is Virginia made this law. You have to bring physical
evidence against them. Yeah, it can't be supernatural. You can't have dreamed it happened.
This lady was brought up so many times, right? Mm-hmm. She was also a midwife and a herbal healer, right? I think a lot of this stuff comes along from the infant mortality rate was only, 50%?
Oh, well, that's very high, yes. It was 50 or greater, yeah.
That a lot of this stuff is kind of in retaliation. Because you don't just go after somebody just because they're smart,
No, but at the same time, I can see, I can see them even accusing her of witchcraft if she had a low infant mortality rate.
If you loved what you heard, check out the Patreon page for exclusive content by searching for The Lore of the South on Patreon.com.